beautiful soul. My name is Cora and today I feel inspired to flow for you a video on the topic of creating better boundaries for soul and body safety. So I've been learning about boundaries my whole life, a lot of it in very awkward moments when, someone goes in for a hug and it's like, I don't feel like it, and learning how to navigate those kind of things. And likewise, feeling energy and learning how to protect myself and even communicate in different situations what I need. And I have to warn you, then just say that this might be triggering for some people because a lot of us weren't taught boundaries when we were younger. And so it can be hard to be told you have this power. And then it's like, all the ways I didn't have it. And so don't worry, I'm here for you. And my prayer is that your angels and guides, my angels and guides, creator, spirit, source, supports us and helps us heal through whatever comes up. So if you do feel like stressed or activated or like, emotional, pause the video, take some time, take a tea, have a shower, whatever it is, get your feet on the earth, whatever helps you feel better and grounded and self-cared for, or perhaps, asking for what you need from the people around you. But yeah, boundaries are surprisingly challenging because I've noticed for me, even when I communicate boundaries as an adult to another adult, sometimes that can be triggering for the adult and make them upset and ruffle some feathers. But the truth is that we all have a right to boundaries, and that is the ideal, I feel, in a good harmony where a good relationship, friendship, whatever, is to be able to communicate what's coming up and then make adjustments accordingly. And I feel like I'm someone who's quite sensitive, and it's been a challenge throughout my life. I've often felt like a really weird person because, for example, I remember like growing up in my 20s ish. I remember being in like hippie societies, cultures where people were always assuming a hug, and I had to be the awkward person being like, or like, because to be honest, like I'm so sensitive to energy that sometimes even just touching, holding someone's hand, I'm going to feel their energy. I'm going to tune into a lot of information and energetics around them. And sometimes I'm just like, I don't have time for that, or I don't have energetic capacity for that right now. And I don't want to hurt their feelings. So sometimes I'm just like, oh, sorry, I don't want to hug, or I don't know. See, this reveals how awkward it is, but there's ways of navigating it gracefully. I find that in those moments of like a greeting, really making my body language very impactful. So for example, if someone goes for a handshake and I'm not feeling it, I'll just be like, thank you. Or hello, nice to meet you. And that's a clear, like, I would rather prayer bow, or sometimes I just energetically check out the situation. And sometimes if I'm feeling a yes in that moment, I might go for that hug, or I might, ask for a hug, or I might, offer a handshake or whatever. But it really is moment to moment feeling our own bodies and being responsible for that. And also honoring that not everyone has that boundary stuff as developed yet. So really being sensitive to body language of like, how is that person's body reacting to me going like this? And I have to thank animals, especially like my cat Luna and one of my previous cats Louie, for really teaching me about boundaries without language. Where, for example, Louie, he was like a little rough and tumble wild guy. And yet he was a Maine Coon. So he was like, it was vulnerable for him because if I did pick him up, he would be like, but he was really good at speaking his boundaries. Like, so I developed a relationship with him where it was safe because if ever I picked him up, because I just love picking him up. If I ever picked him up and he was like, no, I would, okay, you go. Because if I didn't let him down, he would attack. He would absolutely attack. And he didn't hold anything back. So he really taught me like, when I'm holding a being, if they're like let them go, and same thing for my sweet cat Luna right now. She's like a very sensitive cat as well, very sweet, been through a lot. She's really taught me how to earn her trust by listening to her and respecting her and helping her to feel safe, honoring her freedom and her sovereignty. And yeah, it's been a beautiful lesson that translates well into the human world as well, because being able to listen to body language and recognize when it's a no is really important. And yeah, recently on the topic of body safety, that's a term that I recently learned because I was working at a job where I was working with kids, and it was amazing, but it was also quite triggering because of my stuff, my own material. I've been healing my whole life. And at one point there was a coworker who had kind of creepy energy. Many people noticed it. So I found already his energy was uncomfortable for me as an intuitive empath. But then I noticed his actions, his boundaries were very like entitled and disrespectful of that sovereignty and that body language. And so I ended up asking a coworker, is this appropriate? And then she was like, you should speak up. So I did. And then it opened up a lot of conversations. And for me, I ended up just seeking like, okay, well, what are appropriate boundaries for kids? And I found this resource, which I'll leave in the link below, from, I believe, an Australian organization, but it was teaching about body safety and how to help kids have really great boundaries around their bodies, and not just their bodies, but also their energy, which I was like, yeah, like that's great. So in this resource, you'll see there's different age groups and what you can do to encourage their sovereignty. Obviously, consent is king, queen. Being able to ask and get confirmation is really important, but sometimes they're so little that they can't yet. So that's where I feel like body language is really important. And also treating them kind of like they're a disabled adult, like that you love and respect. How, if you had to take off their socks or whatever and they couldn't speak, you might say, hey, can I take off your socks? Or I'm taking off your socks right now so that your feet can breathe, or whatever. But like having a verbal description of what you're doing can help create more safety and awareness of like what's being done. And again, obviously honoring body language and that kind of thing. I'm not a parent, so I don't have all the information. So I'm not going to talk about parenting. But as a auntie, as a community person, I am happy to learn and share what I've learned, because I just want us all to feel safe in our bodies and to feel safe in our souls, you know, because that's something I also loved about this resource is they encourage teaching kids that they have an energy bubble and no one has the right to come into the energy bubble, the aura, without consent. And I was like, thank you. Because like even recently I was at a store, this happens so much, but I was at a store and an older gruff man, you know, kind of just walked right into my energy. And I quickly, my body language was like uncomfortable. And then I also vocalized, I was like, could you please give me some space? And I could tell he wasn't like getting it. And then I was like, I'm sick, COVID. You know, COVID's like my last like card if I really need someone to back off. Because sometimes they just don't understand it. Like I've had a few times in grocery stores where people are just, you know, and for me as an energetic, intuitive empath, sometimes it's just like, oh my God, you know, because I can feel people before I even see them. So it's just like boundaries are really important. And sometimes it's like just that extra bit of space gives me, at least my physical body, my human gives me the feeling of sovereignty and more safety. And my soul, it gives me a feeling of just like, more of a bubble, so I can just kind of detach. But it's amazing how some people get really offended, you know, and it's made me realize that a lot of people have not been taught boundaries. And so when boundaries are communicated, sometimes it makes them very uncomfortable, because it not only is like this new language that they're like, oh, what's this? But also like it can be triggering, because then it reminds them, oh, well, I never had any boundaries because people treated me like a little doll that they could just use or whatever. And so it can be triggering, but at the same time, it's important, you know? And one of my sayings is honor your soul, honor the whole. And also, if you can't say no, your yes doesn't mean anything. So being able to say no, being able to speak up about boundaries, and I'll admit, like, it's hard. It's so hard. As a people pleaser, as a sensitive person, it can be hard to communicate something, especially when it is a level up. And that's the beautiful thing though, is boundaries allow us to level up. Like for example, having boundaries around work, around like financial exchange or time boundaries or energetics. Like being able to speak that equals an up level in your life experience. And likewise with relationships, intimacy, being able to, instead of just being in an automatic pattern of fawning or freezing or whatever, because I can speak for myself, that's a bit in my physiology. Being able to communicate that and vocalize in the moment as much as possible can be really helpful to bring more safety, bring more presence. And if need be, here's a little tip for you. Try clowning, which is something that I did not too long ago, a few months ago. I was hanging out with a new guy person, interest, friend. Obviously, it didn't really go anywhere. But in that moment, I remember we were hanging out and I, excuse me, I still have a lung infection. But at one point I was just like, I was like literally frozen with awkwardness. I was just sitting there beside him on like the couch thing. And I was like, and I just joked about it. I tried to laugh about it instead of being like, I'm cool. No, I'm fucking cool. I joked about it in the moment. I was like, yeah, I'm so like comfortable right now. Because sometimes laughing can help. Laughing can help lighten the energy, and especially with like when we're stuck in those things. Because like sometimes I just feel like a deer in headlights, where it's like it's hard to do something different when you're like frozen. And so laughing is a really good way to kind of lighten it up and just respectfully, lovingly laugh with ourselves to liberate ourselves. But yeah, back to body and soul safety. Wow, there's so much I could share. I want a world where people are communicating about this more and in a loving way that's not condemning other people, because really we're just all learning. It makes me think of like a toddler learning to walk and then they stumble. You don't say, oh, you can't walk, or like, we're all just learning and we're all walking each other home. And even that man at the store, I just think that person, I even was talking to one of the people that I know there, and I was just like, that person probably has never been taught boundaries and probably has had their soul kind of beaten out of them over their lifetime, that they're kind of like a shell of a person and they're not present, they're not aware, they're not energetically sensitive and like connected. And so it's hard for someone like that who's in kind of a zombie state to interact with someone who's in more of a I was trying to say soulful and cultivated, and I said sultivated. I don't know if those words really worked, but I'm a lyricist. I like to play with words, and you hit and miss. But yeah, I feel like in my lifetime, I've been cultivating my soulfulness. I've been on this journey of like going within, learning from all the pain, communicating it, making changes based on it. And I do feel like it's given me this ability to like bloom my soul and like, okay, here I am, I'm back. I've done the work, I'm doing the work, and here I am. And I'm doing my best, and I want to be someone that can help other people to reclaim their souls and their power, And when I think of, trigger warning, talking about sexual abuse, so if that's triggering for you, feel free to click out. But if you feel like you can handle it right now, here we go. That's been a part of my journey, is healing symptoms from that. And I've learned a lot because I've had to, because it was just like, how do I get out of this darkness? How do I have a healthy sex life again? How do I love in a way that isn't just navigating a house of mirrors of triggers? How do I be the love and the sacred sexuality that my soul and essence really desires? And it's taken a lot of work, and I'm still on the journey. But it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. And yeah, being able to communicate boundaries and really feel for myself, like, what does my body want? What does my soul want? And standing up for that. Like, I feel like an edge is like that worthiness piece of like, oh, is this person gonna like me if I don't do only those weird things that they want? Not to say that's all weird, but I feel like in the past I've been in positions where I just just people please. Like I just wanted love and belonging and connection so bad that I would do things that were just like way out of my sovereignty and power. Not power, but because I think it is a power to be able to, shapeshift and do other things and whatever, and potentially dissociate and have different parts of you kind of do other things. Like it's a survival technique. But the more that I heal, the more I'm like, okay, we don't have to do that. And I want to live in a world where I can just be my authentic self. And even if I'm not doing what they want, I can still be loved and feel worthy, and they're not going to run away. That is hard to think of, that reality. But I'm nodding because my body is telling me it is possible. And maybe someone out there needs to hear that. Maybe you're in a relationship where you need better boundaries and you want to feel more of that self-worth of like, yeah, I can ask for what I want. Like, yeah, I give a lot, but we don't even have to give to feel worthy. I feel like we are worthy because we are. And that worthiness I feel comes from soul connection and like divine connection, like to remember that we are divine sons and daughters, divine in-betweens, if that's what you are. And to know that we are so sacred, and like the way that we may have been programmed in our upbringing, perhaps even other lifetimes, does not reflect the worthiness of who we are. And so I would like to ask you, like, if you really knew that you are a divine child, a beloved and much beloved, like we're talking like royal quality love, like just like loved so much, what kind of boundaries would you have? What would you claim for yourself? And yeah, it might seem unrealistic. I'll admit, like it does sometimes feel like believing in unicorns, but I still believe. And yeah, so I encourage you to just know that. And the beautiful thing is that when we cultivate this level of love and self-care and self-worth inside of ourselves, then that love's there. And then we can offer it to others and see others in that and send that to others, like lately I've been processing and kind of like deepening into my understanding of like why my authenticity and my energy is sometimes triggering for people, especially people who aren't on the healing path. And something that came through is I was like, whoa, like, because I was trying to understand their actions too, because I had people kind of like gossip about me and be super triggered around me and like just not see me at all and like just be in these negative states and doing harmful things. And I was like, why? And then I realized like a lot of it is because I feel that I've cultivated a lot of divine love. Like my heart is open. Like I walk into situations, most of them as best as I can when I'm really showing up at my best self, which I try to be, but as much as possible, like I'm here with love, like I'm here with an open heart and I'm loving. And it's not just personal love of like, oh, can I be your friend? Or like, do you like me? It's like divine love. Like I just feel divine love. And part of that's through working with entheogens, MDMA, but it's also been just music and spirituality and just being me on the path of continually blossoming authentically. And it's just such that like I literally do like just I love people from a divine space and I want the best for everyone, and that love lights me up. That love gives me life, and it's what fuels me in my life. And I realized that for people who don't feel that, like it could be hard to understand. Like even at a recent work situation, someone thought I was always high on weed, and I was like, I don't smoke weed. Like, but yeah, and I'm not perfect. I definitely have moments when I'm like full of love, and I have moments when I'm human AF and like in my shit and like bitchy and whatever, like moon time. But if I don't receive the love and have communicate the boundaries that I need during that time, yeah, it can be a little bit uncomfortable and crunchy. But who isn't? I mean, when they're in pain, who isn't a little bit crunchy when we're in pain? And again, that's where communicating boundaries is so helpful, to be able to just say like, oh, like I'm in a lot of pain right now. Do you mind if I just have a bath or whatever? Or like, I think I'm not going to come into work today. I just really need an emotional self-care day or whatever, you know. And I think that like being able to communicate respectfully, diplomatically is an art that I'm developing. I'm not perfect, but working on it, because not everyone needs to know everything. And sometimes having emotional boundaries around what we communicate is very helpful. And my screensaver just came on. There we go. So, boundaries, body and soul safety. So yeah, I feel like I'm going to circle this back. It's been already 20 minutes. So I feel like the key things I'd love to share with you, just some last more keys in your tool belt here, is get comfortable with saying no, and get comfortable with being able to respect other people's no, because that's a big piece too, is being able to receive someone's boundary and love through it. And I can speak for myself, like sometimes it's uncomfortable and it's just like, oh, they didn't give me what I wanted, or like, oh, my feathers are ruffled, you know, but like, it's okay to feel the feeling, but then don't let that feeling overtake you, you know, like let the higher love and the higher self kind of come in and then act from that higher self place while still potentially acknowledging that feeling. But, you know, let love win, let light win. And like, yeah, I think the more that we can let other people in our lives know, like, you're safe, your soul is safe with me, like your boundaries are respected, that's really helpful. And speaking of boundaries, I also just want to touch base on parasocial boundaries. So even with this video or sharing online, it's important to remember with online people that even if you feel a connection, because we could have a spiritual connection, you know, I am giving love and I'm receiving the moment, and like we all have this divine connection together. Yes. And I'm a human with my own life. And if you haven't met me in person, we don't actually have a relationship. And that's a really important boundary that I feel needs to be acknowledged, because yeah, I feel like, again, I have so much love and I'm like, okay, I'm okay and I'm happy. Actually, I feel on purpose to like be sharing it in videos and music, but sometimes that can be confusing for people on the other side of that, where they might think it means something, or yeah, it can just make it a little bit uncomfortable when boundaries aren't respected. So, you know, I feel like I'm doing my best to communicate that and also help people know how to connect with me. Like, if you want to connect with me, here are my boundaries. And for me, it's been really helpful to prioritize paid sessions right now, prioritize the people that there is a mutual exchange, and or people where the intention is clear. Because that's something I've noticed, like sometimes people just come at me with their beautiful energy, but when there isn't an intention for why they want to connect with me, I'm just like, I don't know, because my energy is precious and I do have to be careful about where and with whom I share it, because it needs to be protected, you know? And I feel for all of us who are sensitive, spiritual creators out there, like, especially as artists, it's like our energy is extremely important. Our energy and consciousness is so important, because that is the well that we're sharing from. Like, it's one thing if like our job is just like lifting bricks. It's like, well, I don't care if, you know, whatever, I'll just gotta make sure my arms are good. But like for someone who is continually cultivating a divine energy and like tuning into inspiration and like keeping the purity of their own essence strong and connected, and in a space where there is enough energy to overflow like this, like, ooh, need those boundaries, you know? Because otherwise we just get lost in everything else. And I will say that as someone who has Pisces sun and lots of Pisces in my chart, like, it's easy to just like, ooh, look at you. Ooh, look what I can do. I can do that. Oh, look at this person. Oh, you know, I can just flow around and just like, oh, I can literally feel everyone. So I'm like, oh, what does it feel like to be like them? Oh, what does it feel like? And same thing for consciousness, you know, online. It can be very just like, especially these days with all the ads and shit and all the AI stuff. Okay, I love AI, let me just say, but even recently on Instagram, I found a really cool song because someone I admire shared it. And I was listening to it and I was like, I think this was an AI created song. And I could barely tell, but I was just like, I feel like it's synthetic. Like, just something about it felt very synthetic. And even their page was like very AI art. And I'm like, interesting. Are there like AI artists out there? If so, message me in the comments. I think you're awesome. I am a fan. I do love the song, and I think it's a really cool concept. And but like this, and even for like online dating and stuff, like I got some comments on TikTok, and I was like, I wonder if this is a bot or a real person, and it's really hard to tell. And that's why I think it's really important for us to be very discerning, very protective with our energy, with our boundaries, and especially online. Like really be careful. And you know, if you haven't met someone in person, be very careful with your energy. And yeah, because I've noticed for me, like until I meet in person, I don't know, like, you know, someone even with online dating, there can be like all these amazing pictures and videos and words and whatever, but like until you meet that person, you're one-on-one, human to human, you don't get the full download. And so I find it really helpful to like conserve energy, protect yourself. I go like this because even especially with sexting, like do not do that with someone you have not met in person, you don't trust fully with your life. Do not do that. It's not worth it in my experience. But yeah, anyways, so body and soul safety, love yourself, protect yourself, speak your truth, protect those around you. If you need to be a voice for the voiceless, it's worth it. It's worth a try. Even if it ruffles feathers again, you know, I feel like it's really important for us to take care of ourselves and each other. And the more that we can take care of ourselves, the more we can take care of each other. And likewise, the more we're helping others, the more that we're also helping ourselves. So I hope this video helped you. It really felt good to share. And I love you. I really do. All my YouTube people, I really do love you. Even if I don't know you, like I want to know you. I want to create like in positive, you know, work dynamics, or like meet in person, or, you know, meet and greets or something, you know, concerts, whatever. Like I want those deeper connections, because I do feel like I have these threads of like beautiful synchronistic comments and conversations with people where I'm like, oh, you're amazing, you're amazing. But for me, I'm very protective, because unless we've met in person or we have like a very clear intention for why we're connecting, I'm just very protective, as, you know, I think many people have to be when they're creators and artists and flowers of online inspiration. So thank you for listening. I love you so much. Have a beautiful day. Protect that beautiful body and that beautiful soul. You're worth it.